Welcome to the Shifting with Marlee podcast. I'm Marlee. Thank you for joining me wherever you are. All that I ask of you, the listener, is to have an open mind and an open heart. And in return, I offer you myself. Today, we're going to talk about a new paradigm of abundance and manifestation. We're going to talk about healing the scarcity mindset, lack mentality, and not enoughness that is often hidden beneath the surface and affecting our lives and blocking our manifestations. And we're also going to explore the miracle frequency and learn how to align with this miracle frequency and how to unlock more happiness, contentment, safety, peace, and presence in our lives. Here to guide us today and share her wisdom is Shule Ozek. Shule is a shadow work coach and energetic business mentor based in Australia, and she is also the host of the Consciously Thriving podcast. Welcome, Shule.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And can I just say, your voice is so soothing. I was like, oh my God, I was being transfixed as I was listening to you.
That's like the highest compliment. Thank you so much.
Honestly, I was like getting so activated just by hearing your voice. Wow. Ooh, shivers.
Shule, thank you so much for being here. I'm just so grateful.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I think this conversation is one that the collective absolutely needs.
Before we get started, Shule, can you please let people know where they can find you and connect with you?
Absolutely. I think the best way to connect with me is Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Shule Ozek and TikTok as well. So I think my TikTok handle is at shule.ozek. So I think those are the best platforms to just stay up to date with everything that I've got going on in my world. And I share so much on there as well.
So, Shule, let's dive in. There's so much to discuss. And I've actually been following your work for years now. And I know one of your specialties is manifestation. It's something you share a lot about and also work with your clients on. And I also know that last year you went through a period of change or awakening or transformation or transition, whatever you want to call it. And that shifted your views on manifestation in a big way. So to start off today, I would love to dive into this and unpack this. So to start off, Shule, can you please share with us what your previous views and teachings were on manifestation and abundance prior to your big breakthrough, I'll call it, this past year?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first was introduced to the manifestation space, what that looked like for me is really breaking free from the box I put myself in, right? I had a lot of expectation on what I thought, my life was supposed to look like. I had a lot of dreams to, work for myself. I didn't know what that would look like or, be creative and to do something I loved, but I just didn't think that that was realistic. That was allowed. It wasn't what anyone else was doing. I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to go against the herd. And I spent most of my time, leaving high school and finding myself in my early 20s, really going against what felt right and aligned for me. And, I pursued degrees. I got my bachelor in health science, specializing in skin health and things like that. And I worked for a cosmetic doctor. And I just went down this path that I knew was wrong. And the entire time my soul was telling me, no, this isn't it. This isn't it. Turn back. No. And I didn't listen. And of course, it led to me creating a life that was completely unaligned to the point where I ended up entering really intense depression and I was suffering with really bad panic attacks because I was just so not honoring my life. And I got to this point where I'd moved out with my partner. I was in this like job that was, meant to be a good job, getting paid well. And I was doing that day in, day out. And I was just like, what is my life? Like, this can't be it. This can't be how life goes for me. So it's like I trapped myself in this expectation of what I thought, I was supposed to do. I played the society's game. I did all the things, and it wasn't enough. I didn't feel like I was fully whole. And I was like, well, I'm missing something. This isn't right. So then through that, I ended up going down my journey of awakening. That's actually what triggered my awakening in the first place, my spiritual awakening. And I really had to do a lot of like healing. I had to find myself. I did that all through like meditation, and activated this whole new part of the world that I just did not know existed. Like, I was not an energetically in tune child. I was not religious. I had nothing connected to like the spiritual world. I identified as an atheist. So to be going from that extreme to that extreme, it was just a massive shift and a massive awakening, because I like started to connect to my soul, and I was reading energy. I was getting messages. It was just insane. So through that, I learned about manifestation and, the fact that you can create a life that you dream about. And once I started to really connect to my soul and my truth and my essence, I realized, oh my God, this entire time I've been going against what felt right for me and what I truly wanted to do. And all of a sudden, it kind of made sense as to why I had entered this point of like complete disalignment and just feeling the way that I was feeling, just so like feeling like unfulfilled, like nothing was right. So I felt like finally I had an answer, right? So I go on this like journey, and you hear about manifestation online, and I'm just like, this is incredible. This is exciting. I don't have to keep myself like tied to this life, and I can be more. I can experience more. I can, do all the things that I dream about doing. And I went on that journey of pursuing that. That journey was one of the most activating journeys of my entire life. I've learned so much through my journey of really like creating a life by my own design and going against the grain. So I ended up leaving my job, starting my dream business in spirituality, and just doing my thing. And it honestly ended up being really good. Like making like 10K months at one point, and it's been like an up and down journey, but like I achieved the things that I told myself, once I achieve these things, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be happy, right? So I did the thing, and it was last year specifically. I was traveling on my own. I was supporting myself, and I was like, I was making all of this money through doing work that I love to do. I work with spiritual entrepreneurs. I'm a shadow work mentor, right? So I was like, I was in my dream, and I remember I was on the plane to Bali, and I was just like it's happened. Like I'm doing the things that I love and that I dreamed about, and yet something still feels off. Something still feels like not right. Something I can't lie to myself. There was a feeling underneath that was like, it feels like I need to get more, or it feels like I'm still holding my breath and holding on tightly. Like just, it didn't feel right. And then through that, I basically went through, I've been calling it my spiritual awakening 2.0, because I've realized that I got stuck in this experience where I started to treat manifestation as a way to, I wasn't doing this consciously. I didn't know, right? Because it was like a lot of the programming we receive around manifestation and how we're basically brought up as humans in this world. Like we live in a consumerism mindset. Like we're taught consumerism mindset, right? It's like, if you don't feel good, get more, be more, do more, succeed more, right? It's like we've been taught this. So I'm not surprised to see it being taught in the manifestation community as well. But that's essentially what happened. I realized that I was using manifestation to try and fix how I felt on the inside, and trying to avoid feeling bad, trying to avoid feeling pain, frustration, being scared. And that was never going to happen, right? The more I accumulated in my business, the more I achieved, the more money that I got, like it wasn't going to make me feel better on the inside. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking to feel better on the inside. And along the way, I really confused this principle of being able to be like, you can create your own reality. That's amazing. Yes, you have that ability, but also it's not to avoid healing. And I see this now a lot in the manifestation community, a lot of people using manifestation as a way to avoid their like internal blocks, as a way to avoid their internal struggles, to not feel bad, to not feel scared, to not feel shame. And it's a cycle that will never end up coming to completion. The more you get, the more it amplifies the feelings that you're trying to avoid feeling. And that was my awakening. That was my moment of like, I'm here. The reason I chose to put my all into this work in this world and live my life this way is so that I truly heal, right? So that I stop living my life with my nervous system activated, with my holding my breath, with, this like underlying sense of doom. And it came with this realization, and it's been like the biggest journey for me of realizing, oh my God, like nothing out there is going to make me feel better on the inside.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I have like full body chills, spiritual awakening 2.0. I love that so much. There's a lot to unpack there, Shule. I'd first love to know, how did that all make you feel? Your big realization this past year, realizing that your previous practices and what you had been sharing around manifestation was no longer really in alignment and really had that energy. I don't want to call it a negative energy, but had that dissonance beneath the surface. How did that make you feel?
So many things. I think I went into straight away, I was like, oh my God, everything I've been sharing, I don't agree with it anymore. What do I do? And for me, like I care about people. I've always wanted to bring people along on this work, and it was a journey of realizing it's like, okay, it's not that it doesn't. It's not that that wasn't relevant. It's not that those like teachings weren't relevant. They are relevant. It was just the energy in which it was being shared from that needs to be like looked at, right? So it was hard because it was like there was this feeling of guilt as well, because I've guided people through this work, and I've been guiding myself through this work and all of that. So it felt like, oh my God, like fuck, I don't want to ever lead people astray or anything like that. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that we like, even when you change and you grow and you evolve, like I believe that for me, like this is how I think about it. When I first got introduced to this space, if I heard me talking now, I'd be like, what the fuck are you saying? I don't know. I'd be like, what? I don't even understand what you're saying right now. So I needed, the basic, like you create your own reality. And I needed that content in order to facilitate my awakening journey, to actually learn this message here. So that's how I see my content. It's like an archive of my journey. And when people come into my space, I really trust in people's power, and I trust in the flow of everything. So when people come into my space and they go back on my content, if they're like looking back at previous content, it's because that's what they need at that level of consciousness. That's what's going to speak to them. And there's so much like relevance and power in that. And then they can like grow with the content and come into this understanding now. And it's a part of the journey. It's a part of the evolution. So I always say, like, even now, knowing what I know, it's like, even when I'm talking to clients it's like I'm really tapping into where they are as well on their journey and what they're able to actually hear and receive as well. So it's like the advice you give to people, it's not always going to be like, oh, this is how it is at this point now, and this is just like stock standard. This is what it looks like. And it's not black and white. And I feel like humans want to make it so like it's this way, it's not this way. And it's like, no, it's like it's all relevant. It's all helpful, but it just depends on what you're ready to hear, where you're at.
Yeah, I totally agree. That makes so much sense. And can you share with us now, after your big realization, spiritual awakening 2.0, what your current views are on manifestation?
Yeah, so they've definitely evolved, as I've mentioned. So my current views would definitely be that manifestation is a co creation. It's a co creation between you and your soul. Your soul knows exactly why you're here. Your soul knows exactly what you are here to achieve in order for you to evolve in the way that the soul wants you to evolve. This is a co-creative dance. Now, my belief is that the human really truly does know nothing. It doesn't know anything, and it's only ever creating based on need and based on shadows, right? Based on parts of itself it's trying to avoid seeing. So whenever we're creating from the human self, you're always creating from a limited source. Even if you're sitting there going, I want to create like $1,000,000, da, 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 I urge yourself to like ask yourself where that comes from. You know, where are these desires actually coming from? So for me, my belief now is that my human knows nothing. And my job in this co-creative dance that I have with the universe is to do my part in the healing process, my part in the evolution process, which is to see myself fully, right? So where do I project need onto the outside world around me, onto my relationships, right? And what does that reflect within me? What is that showing me about me, right? Where do I project separation, lack, scarcity, whatever insecurities are coming up, wherever I'm trying to tie my self-worth to, that's my healing. That's my job in this dance of manifestation, right? So that's my job to do that work. So my job is to see those parts of myself, release those parts of myself, not suppress those parts of myself, let them go, let them transmute. And my soul, her job is to guide the way, to show me the path, right? She knows what's up. My soul can see 10 steps ahead of me. I don't know. And I'm not going to get my human involved in the process and like fuck things up and like go in circles and go in dances, right? Instead, I'm going to let my soul lead, and I'm going to stop trying to micromanage everything. I'm going to do my part to play. When you're releasing these parts of yourself, you're connecting back to your truth, source, love. You're connecting back to abundance frequency and the miracle frequency, which you mentioned at the start of the episode, which I'm sure we're going to dive into, right? But you're connecting back to the truth, and you're holding that dominant vibration, and your soul will then guide the way, and you will evolve as you need to. And something that my friend always says, Nadia, we actually have that podcast together, and I really love this. And I always say it to myself, but it's like, what is meant for you cannot pass you by. So there's no need for you to grasp, hold on, try and create, right? Anything that's coming from that energy is always coming from the part of you that feels like you are separate, or that's operating in need, that's operating in separation. It is not your truth.
Wow. I love that so much. And I'm in full agreement with everything you just shared, and it makes so much sense. And I think this is big, Shule, because you basically discovered through your realization a trap that we all fall into really often without even realizing it, right? Like it's unconscious. And so I'm really glad we're bringing awareness to that. And it's really that underlying energy of need, separation, scarcity, and lack, right? So, what do you think are some of the ways this scarcity and also this not enoughness and energy of lack, what do you think are some of the ways they're showing up in our lives and businesses and in our relationships subtly beneath the surface without us even realizing it? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah. So anything that you need, that's like the best way to look at it. Anything in your life that you feel like you need, like if you feel like you need your partner to do something, you need your partner to show up in a specific way. If you need clients, if you need money, right? If your mind is saying, but I need money for survival. That's a big one I get because I work with spiritual entrepreneurs who are like, creating their own wealth. That's a big one. They'll be like, no, but I have to worry because I need this. And I'm like, no, like that's the ego convincing you that you have to worry because you need it, right? So it's like anything that is associated with need is coming from the part of you that is operating in separation from truth. And like even like being seen, if you feel like you need to be seen, if you anything you literally need from the outside world, it's not truth. It's operating from lack, it's operating from scarcity, it's operating from any part of you where you're giving your power away to the outside world, and you will never ever get what you're looking for by calling this thing in. Another one that I always get is like, but I want to travel. My soul desires to travel and to see the world. And I'm just like, your soul desires, like, what's the underlying frequency there? It's like your soul desires freedom. It desires peace, it desires excitement, adventure. That has nothing to do with travel itself. These are all energetic frequencies that we're actually looking for, that we want to connect to, that we want to integrate, that we want to come back home to, right? And create from within rather than find it from the outside sources. And I do want to say, like, this isn't to denounce the physical world. It's like, no, I participate in the physical world. I enjoy the physical world, but there's a difference between participating in the physical world and enjoying what's there, and holding on to what's there, desperately trying to keep it there so that it doesn't go away, so that you feel good and you feel safe and you feel like, okay, cool, I'm good now. It's so important to recognize this, because this is literally where your liberation lies. This is where true freedom lies.
I love that so much, Shule. It's getting beneath the surface to the underlying energy and frequency. And some other examples I thought of as well is that need for money, or that desire to want to make, you mentioned this 10K months, right? Or this desire to leave your current job, and I can only be happy when I'm working for myself, right? It's all these little desires and need. It also has this underlying frequency, like you mentioned, of that lack, of that not enoughness, right? Of that disempowerment, of that scarcity. And that's our ego.
Yes. I love that you mentioned that. That is exactly the case. And this is such a big one that I see with spiritual entrepreneurs specifically, like always like dreaming about, like, once I'm in my business, once I leave the job, once I get that money, right? And I promise you, I'm like, I have been there, I've played it, I've done the dance, like, right? You'll never be okay. You will never feel safe. You will never feel at peace, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now. If this is like a story you keep telling yourself, this happened to me. I left my job. I was convinced that my job was the reason why I was feeling unaligned, right? Left my job. Okay, I don't feel good. I felt good for a little bit, a couple of weeks, and now I'm like not feeling good at all. In fact, I feel worse. I feel more out of alignment. I feel more unsafe. I feel like just not in my element at all. And I'm like, okay, you know what it is? Money. I need money. That's why I don't feel that way. Makes sense. Let's go on that journey now, right? So then I create like money. When I first left my job, it was like a 10K month in my business. So I had launched a program that I had called Multidimensional Living. And I launched that and I got my first 10K month, and I was like, huh, funny that I don't feel better. What is this, right? I'm just like, I don't feel better. Okay. So you know what it is? I need to consistently make this, and then I'll feel safe, right? And then, oh, lo and behold, that does not happen. And it's this cycle that just continues to feed each other. And I'll tell you what was happening underneath the surface, right? Underneath the surface, I needed the job. I needed the consistent 10K months in order to feel like I had made it, I was worthy, and I was safe. And that is never, ever, ever going to happen, because the thing is, when you're in your business and when you're making money, there are always going to be ebbs and flows. You're always going to, like, there's going to be a moment, even if you make a 10K month, listen to the words that I'm saying right now. There's always going to be a moment where it's going to ebb. What does nature teach us? That life is cyclical, that the universe is cyclical, right? That's a universal law, right? Things ebb and flow. So the money is going to ebb. So as soon as that money ebbs, you are going to feel out of control, scared. You're going to be like, oh my God, is it going to come in there? Blah, 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 blah. And those are going to be your dominant frequencies. And you're constantly going to create a reality for yourself where you're up and then you're down and then you're up and then you're down. And your vibration is always going to depend on what you have and what your business is doing. And you will never, ever find peace and freedom and safety. And that is not what you want. Like, as a spiritual entrepreneur, you went into this work, you felt drawn to do this work with people because you value your healing and your transformation and your well-being, right? That's why you're here. That's why you do this work. So you're going to be on this journey of like never feeling like you got there and like you're healing and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, because you're losing yourself in the process, because you're giving your power to all of these external things outside of yourself. And there's just no way to maintain just this energetic standard for yourself if your constant reassurance needs to come from the outside world.
Absolutely. If I could clap on this podcast, I would. I would be clapping for you. I also, by the way, feel very called out, which is amazing.
Am I just like just calling you out here?
Absolutely. And I also just think it's really important to say that everything we're talking about is ageless, right? This is all until we do the healing work at any age. Because I mean, I still see these same patterns and the same lack programming, for example, in my 83-year-old father, right? So all of this is regardless of age, right? And it's kind of regardless if you're a spiritual entrepreneur or not. It's really about our base frequencies. And another example I thought of that I think it's important to bring up as well is that belief, that story we tell ourselves that the grass is always greener on the other side, right? It goes along with that idea of always moving the goalpost further and further away of where we are and focusing too much on the external world and external validations, like you said. And it's also that mindset of I'll be happy when. Meaning, once everything in my external world falls perfectly into place, then I'll be happy. Right? I mean, it's ridiculous because it doesn't actually happen, right? It's like that idea of once I make this much money, once I weigh this many pounds, or once I have the perfect relationship, or whatever external measures of success, it's like only then can I be happy, right? That's that underlying story and frequency.
Yes, I love that you mentioned that because you drive yourself crazy trying to create these perfect conditions in the outside world. And I love that you like took it outside of business as well because it's in everything that we do in our relationships, in our friendships, in what we have, in all of the things. And it's just the most like unrealistic thing. There is no way you're going to get perfect conditions constantly. It's not possible, right? So it's interesting to see because it's like we desperately try to control the outside experience and make it look the way that we need it to be in order for us to feel good on the inside. Yet anything that is causing this like scared feeling or it's causing this lack feeling or, shame spirals or guilt, whatever it is that's coming up that's being reflected through this outside experience, like that's your ticket to freedom. That's actually life trying to show you where you give your power away, where you disconnect from source, and it's showing you exactly how to come back home to yourself because it's showing you exactly what needs to be released. The way in which I see the world now and the way in which in the way in which I dance with life, right? It's not from this like control of energy where I'm like, I need to control all of the conditions. It's like, oh, I pay attention. This doesn't make me feel good. This happened in my relationship. I feel unsafe. I feel lack. I feel angry. I feel frustrated. I feel guilt. What is that? Okay, can I see that? And can I release that? And it's just life showing me where I need to come back home to myself. And I love it now because I'm like, oh, here, another area in which I'm giving my power away, an opportunity to release that and to do the work, right? To do the work, to do what I came here to do.
Yes, absolutely. It's all an opportunity. And everything we're bringing up today is to help bring awareness to all of the hidden traps and the unconscious patterns, right? And bring awareness to that energy of lack that means this moment is not enough, right? It's that not enoughness, that lack, that all of that you mentioned. And this is just so important. And I'm just really glad we're bringing awareness to this because that energy of lack and not enoughness, it can be really subtle. And so it's really important to have that internal inquiry with yourself, like you mentioned, and uncover what's going on beneath the surface, right? It's exploring our why behind our motivation, our true and honest motivation behind our actions, right? And our desires is like, what is the why? It's that internal inquiry. Are we constantly rushing to the next moment? Something to ask yourself. Is our why because this moment is not enough? Something else to ask yourself, right? It's that inquiry that can help us uncover and bring awareness to our own habits of lack and not enoughness and scarcity and all the things.
I love what you shared there. It is like that's just the most powerful question to ask yourself before you do anything at all. And what you'll find what I found is whenever you project onto the future, whenever you project onto anything outside of you, it always comes from a place of needing to prove something to other people, to yourself. It always comes from that place where you aren't fully anchored into your truth and your soul, because when you are operating in that frequency, when you are connected to that place, you genuinely don't need anything outside of you. You're not projecting onto the future. You're not wishing for a better reality or wishing for a different circumstance, because you're fully here in the experience that life is gifting you now, and you're receiving from that experience. So it's really, really interesting, and it can be quite triggering for people to hear this, right? Particularly when you've been so like consumed by the aspect of creating your dream life. And I know this from experience. This was one of the hardest things that I had to like come to terms with, because I had created my dream life, right? It's like I had done those things. And it was like, here I am going, no, but it is possible. You can do that. And it's like, yeah, you can do that as a human. You can. But it's not true healing, and it's not true freedom. It's not actually what your soul wants, right? And it's this constant rat race that you get stuck in. And something I wanted to say here as well is ask yourself right now, if you want to like reflect on this and be willing to like, allow this question in, and it's probably going to trigger you when you hear this, but it triggered me because I was like, what the fuck? But if I told you right now that you won't get your manifestations this year, that this year is not your year, what comes up for you? Like what comes up? Are you like, no, fuck off? Yes, I will. No, I'm not going to have another year where I don't get my manifestations. It's just not going to happen for me, right? All of these responses are telling you something about yourself. This is where the work is. Your willingness to go into that discomfort, your willingness to go into that part of you that just like fought that and go that what I just said and went, no, I'm going to get what I want. This lady doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't know what she's on, right? That's where the work is. That is where true healing is. Because for a long time when I first like was really releasing my need for my reality to look a certain way and letting go of the business and all of the things and the money and all of it, like I did this in every area of my life, even with how I was like seeing my relationship and myself, and just like letting go of all these expectations that I've placed on myself and being like, okay, I'm just like, can I just let go of all of that and come home to myself and just to get good with what is and just to be here?
Yeah, Shule, that makes so much sense, right? That's where the healing work is. And what do you think are the root causes of this base frequency, of this scarcity mindset, of this not enoughness, of this lack mentality that we've been talking about?
Yeah, I believe it all comes down to our ability to not see ourselves and feel our emotions. That's honestly where it all comes down to, is that because ever since we were younger, we haven't been taught emotional management, right? That's where it comes from. We've been taught to react to our emotions rather than to witness, to see ourselves. We've been taught to judge our emotions rather than to just neutrally witness and release. We haven't been taught to emotionally regulate, and as a result, we're all in this like rat race trying to avoid feeling a certain way, trying to avoid feeling pain, frustration, all of the things. And this is where your work comes in. If you're like willing to step into this, and I believe if you're listening to this podcast episode, then you are like, you're ready to hear this. Your soul wants you to know this for a reason, right? This conversation is going to be activating this truth within you. And you know, there's a reason why you're here and you're continuing to listen, even through the triggers and all of the things. It's because you know that there's truth behind what is being said. So with this, the way in which I urge you to just like experiment with life now, and I want to say experiment because a lot of the times when we're offering new concepts to our ego, to our human self, it can feel very scary because we're doing life differently. And as soon as you try to put the ego into a box and you're like, hey, do it like this is how we're going to do it from now on, feel this way from now on, it feels very like attacked, right? Because the ego's job is to make you feel safe and to keep you in survival. So to like throw in concepts onto the ego, it's never going to work. Your ego is going to fight against it. So instead of being like, we're doing this from now on and this is how it is, just offer this as like an experiment to yourself. You know, I often have these conversations with myself when I'm offering new concepts. I'll talk to my ego in a way where I'm like, hey, can we just play with this? You know, we don't have to keep it, but can we just play with it? And then it allows wiggle room. And even if you just like tune in now and you have that conversation with yourself, you'll notice yourself wanting to open up and experiment with this and play with this rather than like close off and fight what I'm about to offer you to try, right? So it's like, it's a really good way for the ego just to be like, okay, cool, I'm not tied to doing things this way, but like I can just play. So just play with this experiment. But the next time something happens, right? The next time you have your money comes up, you're going to buy groceries and you're feeling like, oh my God, that money is leaving my bank account. Holy shit, but I shouldn't be feeling this way. I know as a, you know, as a person of this work, as a spiritual person, I know that this frequency isn't truth and I know that abundance is real and da 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 da. And you start to like shame yourself and then go into that spiral and then it ends up being this like, you know, big fucking thing. Instead of going into that, instead of communicating with that feeling, instead of like going into the shame spiral, can you just witness it? Can you just see it? Can you just breathe into the feeling and to allow it to be there? So this is really important. Like what I noticed that a lot of spiritual people do, because we've been taught like cognitive therapies through manifestation, we're taught like offer a better feeling affirmation, see a different perspective, blah, blah, blah. Again, it's not that these things aren't helpful and aren't relevant. They are. But that can also lead to bypassing. So you have to be mindful of like every single time you have a bad feeling come up and you go, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, and you push it away. That is bypassing. You are literally putting that emotion back into your body. Now, the thing is, we are like literally filled with all of our, they're called, I think, I hope I don't butcher this word, but samskaras. They're basically shadows, right? Shadow triggered aspects of ourselves. And life is going to show you where these samskaras are, where they lie. This feeling that you have towards money, it will come up in your relationship in a different way because it's that underlying frequency. So it's going to continue to copy and paste on the world around you. And this is why I say like, this is your work. This is the healing work. This is your like path to liberation, because and what people are trying to do is like, they're trying to like push it down, offer a better feeling thought, you know, get to the root of where it comes from. And it just like, that work is relevant to a certain point, but then it gets to a point where it's like, why isn't it working? I've done everything. I know all the work. I've been in this work for years. Like, why isn't my life changing? And that's a lot of like the people that I work with. They're in this work for years. They're well versed in this shit. They're like, I fucking know. I've danced this dance before, right? But I can't seem to get out of my patterns. I can't seem to stop feeling this way. And that's why this work is really powerful, because it's like, this is where the work lies now, right? It's not that you have to discover anything else about yourself. It's not that you have to offer yourself a different perspective. Those exist. You understand abundance. You know how the universe exists. You know all of those truths that already exist. You don't have to try and get it within you. So every single time this feeling is coming up, it's not a representation that this is where you're operating from. It's a representation of your frequency rising, and it's life showing you what needs to be released so that you can operate with this version of yourself that you've been integrating, right? The version of yourself that sees abundance, that knows the truth, that's connected to soul. It's like these shadow aspects of yourself, they can't stay. They have to be released. And that's what they want to do. So when this is coming up, right, in that moment, you're going to buy your groceries and you feel this lack within you, that feeling wants to come up and it wants to be released and it wants to be taken out through your crown chakra. You can literally feel it, particularly if you're like intuitive, you're really like in tune with your energy. You can feel the energy moving through your chakra system and coming out and leaving. And then you're literally left with this feeling of like, it feels like abundance. It feels like an opening. It feels like energy rushing in, and you're connecting more to that love, truth, consciousness, right? Source consciousness, your soul. That's what I keep referring to when I say coming back home to yourself, right? So whenever you're trying to like offer yourself a better feeling thought and you're not getting there on your own naturally, then that's an indication that you're bypassing, right? You're trying to avoid feeling this uncomfortable emotion, because we've been taught to avoid feeling uncomfortable emotions. We've been taught to numb, go on our phones. We've been taught, you know, don't cry, you shouldn't cry, it's not good to be angry, all of these things. So really, really important to understand this. When an emotion is coming up, just like witnessing without getting involved and being really mindful, because then we can try and like cognitively feel better as well, where we're trying to like, you know, when you're trying to go into where did this come from? Da 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 da. That's a form of bypassing. That's a form of non-feeling. Also, I see this in like somatic practices as well. Like people go into like somatic release practices and they're really powerful. And yes, like I love somatic release practices and getting into your body and focusing on where the feeling is. But then sometimes you can get too entangled with it and then you amplify the emotion. You become entangled with the emotion and the mess and you don't actually feel better. And you end up just like, you just make it bigger rather than letting it pass through, which is all it wants to do. So this is really important to be aware of, right? Being aware of, and this is a practice, like I've had to really train myself to do this and I'm still practicing this every day, but it's like every single time an uncomfortable emotion comes up, don't distract, don't go on your phone, don't numb, don't ignore, don't push down, see it. If you've done yoga, this is like the best way I can describe it, but you know when you're in like an uncomfortable pose in yoga and you're like really deepening into this like uncomfortable feeling and like the pain is there, but the only thing you have to anchor into is your breath. You can't escape the pain. So you just like witness your body going through its experience, but you anchor into the breath and you breathe and you deepen into it. Like that's the best way to describe the emotional release, because something I want to tell you is as well is your body is so intelligent. Your body is energetic at its core. It knows how to transmute emotion. This is like the most mind-blowing thing that I learned when I was like doing this work on myself and I had this code drop in. I was like, oh my God, our body knows. Our body knows how to transmute the emotion. I don't have to do anything. I just have to get my human out of the way and stop getting involved when the energy comes up. But my body knows what the fuck it's doing. My body knows how to release an emotion. My body knows how to create homeostasis and come back to balance. I'm just the one getting involved. So I want you to think about this now. Think about life and think about how many times you've done that. Think about how many times you've suppressed. Think about how many times you've bypassed. Shit's going to come up every single day, every moment of every day, no matter what you're doing. You could be doing something not relevant to any of your triggers and your brain is going to bring something up because these samskaras, these shadows, they're living inside of you and they want to be released. They want to be transmuted. So your job is to just like stop reacting to it. Stop shaming yourself for having these feelings. Stop feeling like having these feelings is going to ruin your reality, like ruin what you're manifesting. Like what I want to say here is, and I say this to all of my clients all the time, it doesn't matter what's coming up. What matters is who you are when it comes up. It does not matter. I have triggers 12,000 times a day. It doesn't affect the life that I create, the life that I'm here to live. It doesn't affect my bank account. It doesn't affect anything because of who I am when they come up. I don't let these things stay. I let them pass through and I come back home to my truth. And that's exactly what life is asking of you. So it's like you have to just now train yourself to move into the discomfort, move towards the discomfort, see it, witness it, but don't get involved. And this process is actually taught by Michael Singer. I don't know if you know him, but he's amazing. He's like one of like my biggest teachers in this work. But he always talks about coming to like the seat of awareness. And he doesn't tell you how to find the seat of awareness. And I really love this about like his teachings. But he talks about diving into the state of awareness. And he's like, that's where you end up sitting when you're watching the human have its emotional response and you let it do its thing and you don't get involved. And I used to be so frustrated when I heard that because I was like, where is the state of awareness? Tell me how to get there. Like, I want to know so that I can just like, master this. But finding it on your own is such a journey. And it's like, it's beautiful because you really learn what it means to not get involved with the emotion and allow the body to do its thing. And you'll find the state of awareness when you do this as well. And you'll like literally be witnessing the human from like a third person consciousness. And you'll be like, cool, my human's just having its experience, but you're not getting involved in the drama of it all. Really, really healing to do this work in this way.
Wow, I love that answer so much. It's so, so powerful. And it's that body technology, right? Stepping out of the way to do its thing. And I also just want to bring up as well, Shule, part of the root cause of all of this, right, is the capitalistic system and societal and cultural conditioning that is ingrained in us, right? We are conditioned and it's keeping us in lack. And it's this idea that we always need to be striving for more, right? We
Mm,
need to have 1 year and 5 year and 10-year plans and goals. And from a young age, we need to worry about our future, right? We're taught, it's ingrained in us to worry about our future and project onto our future. And it's like we need to worry about getting into college and then getting a job and then being successful and then making more and more money and then getting promoted and then buying a house and the list goes on, right? And I hope you get my point. We are conditioned to worry about the future and constantly move the goalpost further and further away from where we are in this moment and to equate success with more and more, right? And it all keeps us focused on these external metrics and these external validations. And it's part of that lack programming, I'll call it, that is ingrained in us. And it also gives us this like tunnel vision, right? And closes us off from all of the forms of abundance that are available to us.
Yes. I love everything that you shared there. It does. It does. That's something I was saying earlier is that like when you're creating from the human, it's extremely limited to what is actually available to you. There are so many pathways, so many opportunities that you didn't even know were available to you. But when you have tunnel vision with the human perspective, you honestly limit so much of your growth of life, of what is possible for you. And you're so right in that it comes back to our programming. Like it's really naive to think that that programming doesn't like affect you, right? It affects everything. It's in our schooling system, in the ads that we consume on a daily basis. Like it's just constant, like needing more and more and more and more and, achieving more. And we're constantly in this comparison as well. Like if we look at social media is a powerful tool, but it also is designed to keep you in this constant like comparison. And what's this person doing? What's this person doing? Think about school, like we're taught to like compete against each other with like grades and things like that. And it's just this constant like competing, and it's wild to see how deep this is ingrained in us.
Absolutely. And I say this as someone who's been conditioned and suffered from this my whole life as well. So, like, no shame or guilt here, but like, it's time to make the unconscious conscious and heal, right? Heal all of this and release the emotions like you shared so that we can really step in to our true power.
If you are feeling like a little bit of shame and guilt, I see that a lot with like people who know this work. They go, oh, fuck, I should know better. And they really do put themselves down. And I just want to say, like, there is absolutely no point in you putting yourself down and you being like, I should have known better, da 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 da, because that just adds fuel to the fire, right? It's like it actually keeps you in the frequency that you're stuck in more so. So every single time you go into shaming and guilting and you go into self frustration for going into your patterns, you're just adding fuel to that fire, right? You're not dousing it, you're making it worse for yourself. You're just creating more momentum around that frequency, around those patterns, around that experience. So to offer yourself compassion is like, honestly, like 90% of the healing work. It's like once you offer yourself the compassion, you'll realize that whatever it is you're wanting to release and let go of and transmute, and it happens so much easier without that shame piece tied to it, without that frustration piece tied to it. You just realize, I'm like, oh, it actually wasn't a big deal. It's just something that needed to pass through. But when you have that shame and the guilt on top of it, you're just making it a bigger issue to deal with and to navigate.
So, Shule, how else? You've already shared a fair bit about how we can heal this and move through this. You've shared some practices. Compassion is a big piece. Do you have any other tips and tools you can share to help heal this lack, energy, and scarcity mindset and not enoughness and really disentangle ourselves from the external validations and metrics of success?
The other thing that I haven't really spoken about would be presence, like getting here, being here right now. Like all of the getting out of the need, wherever you project need onto the things around you, that would be your work. And doing that piece of learning how to not get emotionally entangled with what's coming up and allow it to be there and allow your body to actually transmute that emotion. Compassion, massive one, but presence, like that's the biggest one. Coming back here, coming back to what you have. And this is a natural phenomena that happens when you release these lower parts of yourself. You do naturally feel that way. It will be a natural like feeling that you get where you're just like you're here and you're not in the past. You're not wondering like what was or what could have been, and you're not thinking about what the future is going to look like. You're not future projecting. You're here. You're in this experience. You're looking around and you're like, whoa, I'm grateful to be here. I want to be here, right? Because there's so much gifts and beauty being given in this now moment. There's so much that life is giving me right now. And it doesn't matter what your circumstance looks like. It doesn't matter if it's like you have money, you don't have money, you're in the relationship, you're not in the relationship, you have the business, you don't have the business. It doesn't matter. You're working in the job that you don't like, you're not working in the job that you don't like. There's just so much beauty that life is gifting you. There's so much that life is giving you. And just like being here, that presence piece is so important, particularly when you want to create this like incredible life with the universe, right? With your soul. Because it's like if you're not here, you can't receive your next steps. You can't know where to go next. So being here is where the healing happens. And it's like this moment is literally all you have. And I think so many people like sleep on this like presence piece, right? They just go, yeah, present, be present. But it's like with these concepts, they're really simple. I'm not sharing anything that's like, whoa, out of this world, life-changing information. It's really just like basic spiritual concepts that we lose, that we just go, yeah, but tell me how to create my dream life, right? It's like that energy. So I urge you to just be like, okay, can you come back home to the basics? There's one thing knowing something, and there's a completely different thing embodying it. This is so important because so many people are consuming information. They're in this like energy of like consuming the next thing, consuming the next thing. Again, another shadow aspect of being in need frequency, because you're trying to feel like, okay, this didn't work. Let me go on to the next thing. What don't I know yet that's keeping this thing that I want from happening, right? So be mindful of that. Instead of asking yourself, what more can I learn? Ask yourself, what am I not embodying? What do I know and I'm not embodying? Because you have all of the answers right now, right? It's a basic spiritual concepts and tools. And if you're not seeing improvement in your life and in your experience, it is because of this. You're not embodying the things that you already know. So that would actually be another tool. It's like actually embody the things that you've learned, right? Rather than being this constant like consuming cycle. Again, the consumerism mindset. It's just crazy to see how all of these patterns like just feed each other, right?
It really is. I totally agree. And I love that answer. And I think once we have the awareness, another thing that can really help us in the healing is redefining success and abundance for ourselves can also really help us tap into that like gratitude and presence, that disentangling, so that abundance is not just tied to money, right? And success is not just tied to external metrics and checking things off the to-do list, because spoiler alert, the to-do list never ends. Right? The to-do list never ends. So if we can redefine success so that it's not tied to the to-do list, it's very powerful. So for example, abundance is also sunlight on my face and time in the woods and laughter and space to be spontaneous and food and clean water and the love from our pets and a beautiful flower, right? Beauty is also abundance, and success is also how much did I smile today and how much did I keep my heart open today, and taking a guilt-free nap, and my relationship with my body and my spirit guides and my intuition and being present and grateful is success, and spending time with family and being happy in this moment and donating to my favorite charity and being of service. And these are all just examples, but I hope you get my point. It's redefining abundance and success and shifting our mindset, I think, is an important part of the healing process as well.
It absolutely is. And you'll find that when you learn to release these lower aspects of yourself without getting involved, you naturally feel that way. There's no communication you have to have with yourself in regards to that. You don't have to like actually, I would say that you don't even have to like see it different perspective, because you already have that different perspective. And this is like the biggest thing that I saw within myself. Like there was just like you've done so much work on yourself already, right? It's like you're a seasoned veteran at this, right? You've already given yourself those perspectives. You know that abundance is in everything. It's in the sun on your face and all of the things. It's like that part of you exists. There's always like this like dual consciousness, right? There's a part of you that knows the truth, and then there's a part of you that's like disconnected from it. And it's like once you release that part of you that's disconnected, it's like the part of you that knows the truth just shines louder. It gets more amplified. So I think it's so important to like shift the perspective, but then also this piece of that lives within you already. You are that version of yourself. You are that person. And that is wanting to shine brighter. And that's what happens when we have these lower aspects of ourselves come up to the surface. It's like that frequency can't exist with where you're going, with who you're here to become, right? It's like it has to be released. It has to move through. It needs to move through. So yeah, it's really powerful to know that like that's already you. That's your like your truth. You operate at that baseline already, and it's just these parts wanting to be let go of.
Yeah, I love that. It's like that. It's just like removing all the layers, removing everything that's keeping you from being that frequency that you already are. I love that. And along those same lines, Shule, as part of your breakthrough this past year, I've seen you share a lot about the miracle frequency, and I feel like this is a really great time to bring that up. So, can you please share with us what is the miracle frequency?
Yeah, so the miracle frequency is what I discovered after learning non preference and after really practicing what I've been teaching, right? Not getting involved in the creation process, not setting a monthly goal, not setting like, expectations on what my life and my business and my relationships should look like, and just like being in this experience, right? And taking it as an opportunity to release parts of myself and all of the things. And once I entered this space, I truly entered this realm of not needing anything outside of me in order to feel a certain way. And it was like I had touched aspects of this frequency before, but this was like a whole new level of embodiment and a whole new level of just a whole new frequency that I hadn't touched yet, right? It was just this like presence and this like knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should be. And through that frequency, I just truly saw how supported we actually are, how much your soul genuinely actually wants to give to you, and also how like creation works, right? Creation works based on vibration. So when you're operating in this fullness, in this peace, in this calm, in this energy of like, I don't need anything because I have everything. My cup is full. And you're constantly reconnecting back to that baseline frequency, and that's your dominant frequency. Of course, your outer experience has to match that, but there's no need coming from your human self in terms of what that needs to look like. And when I was operating from that, it was this energy of, wow, like we really are supported. Your soul really wants the best for you. And I remember when I was like in this like dance, it was like, it literally felt like the universe was at my back and like supporting my every step, and I couldn't make a wrong move, right? It was like, have you seen Just My Luck?
No.
You haven't seen it? It's a movie with Lindsay Lohan. It's, I don't know if whoever's seen it, but it's like she basically is like so lucky. She, finds money on the floor, and then she's goes outside at the perfect time and all these cabs stop for her, and she's like meant to be like, this lucky person. And that's honestly what it felt like. It just felt like the wind at my back. It felt like I couldn't make a wrong turn. And like during this time, like just insane things were happening. It was like opportunities were coming through, and just like things that I didn't even know were available were in my field, and I was doing nothing in the co-creation process. I was just here. I was not needing anything. I was full. Like I had like $5,000 drop in from the sky, which tends to be an experience that I've created for myself quite a bit, where it's just like random money just comes in. And I was just like this, and it wasn't from my business as well. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, but she has a business, it's like, no, this was not from my business. Money can come from literally anywhere. But it was like this energy of like, oh my God, I didn't do any of this. I did not try and create more income. I did not try and like, create these opportunities. I was just being, and my soul ended up bringing me these experiences that were just fun and exciting. And it just made sense. It was like, of course, I would be a match to this sort of experience because of where I'm operating, because of my baseline frequency. But it was so different to the past. And when I've created these things for myself, I had created results for myself, and I had created this like dream life of mine that I was dreaming about for a while. But it was like when in that experience, it was so different. I wasn't holding on. I wasn't bracing myself. I wasn't like, I have to keep this and I have to make sure that I don't fuck this up, or like, it wasn't any of that. It was just, of course, this is how life gets to be. And yeah, that's what I really like. I get so passionate about like connecting people to now, like this miracle frequency that lives within them, because like your soul knows what it's doing. Your soul knows exactly how to support you, to help you evolve. And the important thing to note with this is like, in order to get into the miracle frequency, you have to be able to have this mindset even when things are tough. Things aren't looking the way that you want them to look, right? Things are like you wanted something to happen, your ego wanted something to happen and it didn't happen. Like it's like learning this frequency, learning to trust the universe in this way when things aren't working out your ego's way, right? And I did that in like quotation marks. It's like the ego wants things to be a certain way. It's like even when those parts of you are being challenged, can you practice this? Can you practice having the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to feel what I need to feel in this. I'm going to release what I need to feel. And then understand that you know nothing as the human playing this dance, and like trusting deeper, right? Using that as an opportunity to be like, I trust deeper. I know that I'm being led to exactly where I need to go, and I trust the unfolding of it all. This is like a good representation of soul versus human in terms of creation, right? So just to give you an example, when you're moving with your soul, I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario. Let's say that you have a business, right? And you want to like you desire to grow that business or whatever it is, or you just desire to do your work in the world and you want to get this message out there. You want to help people with this like transformation that you sell. So what ends up happening in that moment, in that experience, is that when you go into trusting your human, right, what this could look like is somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, I want to take you to this like garden exhibition, right? This amazing garden. It's amazing, blah, 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 blah. Like, you should come. And then you go, okay, I can't come because I have all these things to do in my business. I really want to build this business. I want to come. I feel this like pull to come, but I can't because I have to do this, right? Immediately, you're not trusting the pull. You're trusting the human who went into, I have to, I need to, the ego self. That's like, I need to do all of these tasks in order to, make this business successful and build this business. So then you do that instead, right? And basically, let's say in that it takes you like 2 years to like actually get the business off the ground because you're doing it the human way, right? You're being called to do these things, but you're going into, no, I shouldn't, I have to, the rules say this, whatever. And there's a lot of that with business. So there's that, right? That's one reality that you can follow. The other reality, the other option for you is to trust your soul. So in this moment, it's like, oh, cool, I'm creating this business. I love it. You create it. And then somebody says, hey, I want to take you to this garden exhibition. It's going to be amazing. And then you go, okay, I don't know why. I'm not really into gardening. I don't really have any, but I want to go for some reason. I feel a pull and I'd like to hang out with you. This sounds amazing. Let's go. So then you go. And you don't hold yourself back based on the shoulds and the have-tos. And in this garden exhibition, you meet this other entrepreneur who's in your field, who has like this audience who's like, oh my God, you guys get to talking. And then, it leads to that person having like maybe doing collabs with you or co-creating with you. And then it literally leads to like your business blowing up and like things coming through. And it's like, and then you're just like, whoa, this is exactly like, what I was excited about experiencing. And now here I am in this experience, like, and it took a month for this to happen rather than an experience that could have like literally taken you 2 years. Like that's genuinely what happens. It's wild to see. I've actually seen like these timelines because I used to do readings on people. And I've seen these timelines play out. Like the difference between creating with your human self versus creating with your soul is insane.
That gets me so excited, Shule. It's like the frequency of magic and miracles and mystery
Yes.
and beauty.
Yes, and it's this dance with the unknown. Like that's really what you're playing with this, right? You're really getting into like trusting the unknown. And to trust the unknown, it's really about building this relationship with yourself, like trusting yourself to navigate anything that life throws at you. And yeah, through all of these, like everything that we've been speaking about in this podcast episode, like this is how you do it.
Yeah. And it's really like allowing and opening ourselves up to the magic and the miracles and the beauty and the abundance that is already around us, right? It's like leaning back, trusting, opening ourselves. And it's like that famous quote, when you focus on the good gets better.
Exactly. It's like it's so like simple, right? It makes so much sense. It's like, of course, when I'm operating at this, like, with this resonance in this abundance frequency, of course, when I'm seeing the beauty all around me, I love that you said that, right? When I'm noticing what I have and all the ways in which life is supporting me, of course, that makes you a match to more of that. Of course, it does. It can't not. It's just how the universe works. It's a universal law.
Agreed. And I think I also want to bring up as well celebration is, I think, really important for aligning with this frequency as well, because we tend to be really hard on ourselves and put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So taking the time to celebrate ourselves, I think, really helps shift our frequency out of the density and into the joy, which is that miracle frequency. So it's celebrate your accomplishments, celebrate your wins, but more than that, it's celebrate being alive, celebrate breathing, celebrate your body, celebrate your intuition, celebrate life, right? There's so much to celebrate just by being alive on this earth. And so I think that practice and energy and frequency of celebration can really help us align with that. And, for example, get together with your friends and I don't know, have celebration circles and celebrate each other, right? And lift each other up. And it's just when we open ourselves to celebration, we open ourselves to receiving more as well.
I love that you said that. Like, I literally had chills all over my body. I'm like, yes, 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 yes to everything that you shared. Like, oh, I love it.
And I also, too, want to bring up that point you mentioned of trust, not only trusting yourself and your soul, but the universe as well. Because I think trust is really, really big for living in this frequency, right? Because there's so much going on in the world and we all have immense responsibility. So it's like, how can we truly have this miracle frequency be our baseline dominant frequency, right? And I think the trust piece is huge too, because it's reframing our perspective and reminding yourself, I have everything I need. Life is beautiful, actually. The universe provides for me, and I trust that I will continue to be provided for. It's like this calm knowing that everything is in divine order and that we are supported and guided and provided for, right? It's like the shift from worrying about the future, which is kind of old paradigm, I'll call it. It's a shift from worrying about the future to trusting that everything is working out in your highest and greatest good and being open to all the forms and pathways that takes and being open to all the forms of abundance that could take.
I love that you pointed that out because this is the most important piece, like to be able to deepen into that sense of trust, right? And the thing is, like, you will not be able to deepen into trusting the universe, trusting life, trusting the unfolding, trusting the challenging times unless you're able to deepen into trusting yourself. Like it all, like in everything with relationships, with anything in our life. Like I had this actually come up with a client. They were like, I'm entering this new partnership with someone, but how can I trust that they're not going to break my heart? How can I trust that they're the right person for me? And it's like, when we really got into it deeper, it's like, the thing is, it's not them you need to trust. It's not them who is responsible for not breaking your heart, right? It's like they could. They could break your heart. Your heart could shatter into a million pieces. It really could. And it's about knowing that and remembering that trust comes from you, right? It's like your willingness and your ability to open up into love, into open up into the miracle frequency, to life, and open yourself to opportunities is also opening yourself up to the reality that the opposite thing can happen. that your heart could get broken, that you could be disappointed. And it's like your willingness to see those emotions and be in those emotions and those experiences is what like keeps you open to this experience of life, because a lot of people shut themselves off from opening up to life and people, right? Other people, because they're like, I'm scared that my heart's going to be broken, I'm scared I'm going to get disappointed, I'm scared I'm going to face these feelings. And it goes back to everything I've been saying in this podcast episode, which is like, this is why it's so important to be able to face these emotions so that you can teach yourself, because this is what's going to happen as you do this practice. You're going to show yourself that you're fucking capable, that you are so capable of doing and feeling hard emotions, and that you don't have to be afraid, that you know that, you know, these emotions don't stay. In fact, that they teach you how to get like closer to yourself, how to like deepen into like more love, more trust. And like, yes, these things are difficult. It's not to say that they're not. They will be challenging, but they're happening for you. And you see it that way. And you know that you can handle anything that life throws at you. And this is when you feel safe enough to open up to life. And this is when you trust. It's like you can trust life, you can trust other people, you can trust the unfolding of it all, you can trust the unknown when you're willing to trust yourself and when you know that you're going to be good through it all. So a lot of people, like when they hear me talking about the miracle frequency, they're like, yeah, this is amazing. I want to tap into that reality. I want to be in that. But it comes with like the willingness for you to recognize that the opposite can also happen. And I walk with that knowing every day. I'll walk with the knowing that I could lose everything that I've created. But it's like I no longer need those things in order to feel a certain way about myself. And I've shown myself time and time again that I can navigate difficult emotions, that these emotions only help deepen me into more of my truth. And I show myself every single time I go through something challenging, I will come back to myself. I will come back to myself stronger than I did before, right? And it's like I will always choose myself. And this is what deepens my sense of trust with life. And this is what allows me to open up to these experiences.
It's really like coming into your full power as a co-creative master.
It really is. Just like not needing anything outside of you in order to feel a certain way, and really using every opportunity life is giving you for evolution, right? For the growth that your soul intends to go through. And it's like, if I were in a situation where that was like, you know, let's say like, I'm going to just use my business because I keep using that as an example, but like, let's say I go bankrupt and it doesn't end up working out for me. Sure, that's going to be a really difficult experience for me to navigate, but I know that my soul knows what the fuck it's doing, and it's going to lead me to exactly where I need to be. And there's no expectation on what that needs to look like anymore. And just like trusting the divine unfolding. And as you said, like, this is true power. This is true liberation, because you can actually be in the experience of life rather than this feeling of like holding your breath and trying to control and trying to like, you know, avoid certain conversations with people because you don't want to be triggered and things like that. It's like, no, you're open and you're learning and you're evolving, and you're just like taking every moment for what it is and what it's trying to give to you, and yeah, using it for your evolution.
Trusting the divine unfolding. It's very beautiful. And I also want to bring up along those lines of like the pushing and the forcing, like when it comes to abundance, for example, it felt really important to share today. Abundance is all around us all the time, right? Maybe we've all heard that before. I see it as kind of like an ever flowing river. And so it's really about removing all of our own blocks to abundance. And instead of pushing and forcing in this river and grabbing and holding on and clinging, can you lean back? Can you float? And can you flow with the river?
I love this. I think that that's such a powerful way to go through life and to go through just anything, like the way in which you perceive everything around you, and just like seeing the abundance in absolutely every little thing, even when, you know, the things that you're resisting. Like a lot of things that I see with my clients when they're like, you know, wanting to call in more money and things like that, like they'll be stuck in these experiences or these patterns, and they'll be like, things aren't changing. And like for me, like in my world, as you're probably noticing from this conversation, I'm just like really like cutthroat, cut to the chase, like let's get to the depths. And it can really be like quite confronting conversations. But something I say is that in those moments, I'm like, you know, how can you expect your reality to change when you haven't? Like, here you are looking at this current situation, like, I'll give you an actual example because sometimes, I'm talking in like cryptic terms, but I'm going to use myself as an example. So I remember when I was trying to call in more abundance, when I was in this like real need frequency, and my path of least resistance, and this is how abundance would start showing up in my reality. And this is when I was like micro controlling the universe, but it would like start to come through my like partner and my mum, right? They would be my path of least resistance. So my partner would start to give me things, my mum would start to buy me things, and every single time it would happen, I would go into the frequency of, look, I knew I couldn't do it. I wanted it through my business. It came through them. This sucks. Like, oh my God, my life is the worst. Right. Then I would go into, I failed. I don't, I fucked up, whatever. And it was really interesting because I had this like humbling moment with myself where I was like, whoa, I was like, it's pretty entitled of you to think that, the universe should change or you should receive more when you can't even recognize what you have. And it was just this like, this reminder of like, humbling myself to be like, wait, what? Like, no, this is abundance. This is abundance, right? And I'm like, that was that physical thing. But like, as you said, more so than that, there's abundance in everything. The light shining through the curtain, the feeling grass on your feet and taking a sip of what, like, there's just so much abundance in everything. But at this point, like, that's what I was focusing on, and just being able to like shift my focus to realizing, oh, but this is abundance. And it's like, that's what like opened me up to more and more. And it's just, yeah, it's a real like humbling experience when you recognize how like lack focused you can be, but then also to have this like moment of, oh, how can I expect this to change if I'm still being the same, if I'm operating the same? It just doesn't make sense. It's like, it can't happen.
Yeah, I love that example. Absolutely. And I think part of opening ourselves up and shifting out of the need frequency and shifting into the miracle frequency, I also want to bring up as well one last, powerful practice, if you will, is every day setting the intention, how can I be of service today? I am open to being of service today. Saying that to yourself and to the universe, right? And aligning with that frequency of service, I think helps align with everything we've been talking about as well.
I love that. That's such an important piece to touch on. And I find that when you get into that miracle frequency, that's where you are, right? You want to operate in service. You want to help other people. You want to offer somebody that smile, right? You want to, like, it's so powerful to get into that frequency, because that's like a big question that people have when they start to like practice this work. They'll be like, well, if I don't need anything, if I don't have to manifest anything, if I don't have to do anything, then how am I doing life, right? How am I ever going to achieve anything? How do I participate in this experience? And the thing is, it's like, you're not going to want to denounce the physical things. You're not going to want to not be in life. You want to be in life. And not only do you want to be in life, you want to give to life. You want to give to everything that you do, right? So this is going to look like the job that you're in. You want to give your best. You want to like show up in that energy of like, yes, I get to be here and I get to pour myself into this. And it's like the same with your clients or the same with your relationship. Like when you're in your relationship, it's like, I want to be here. I want to give to this person. I want to be like, you will always put your like best foot forward. And like, this is a part of you raising the frequency, raising collective consciousness, right? This is the ripple effect, right? When you show up to life in this way of giving, love naturally wants to give. Love naturally wants to share, like to expand, to like bring people up, and that's just what happens. So it's, yeah, I love that you spoke on that as well, just to think like, how can I be of service? Like, how can I get out of this like ego I way of thinking and be like, how can I show up for life today and actually be the change in the world that I want to see?
Exactly. And as you were talking just now, like kind of the visual that I got is like being so open and like your chest out, and you're just like, hello, hello world, I am here. And it's like this energy of giving and receiving and just like showing up for it all, and such
Exactly.
openness. Do you get, I don't know if I explained that well, but
No, I completely know what you're feeling. And I feel like everyone who's listening to this, like, knows that feeling. I feel like this entire episode, I don't know if you've realized, but we've been like doing this. Like, we've been opening our chest and like, really like putting our chest forward, because it's really just such a heart-based conversation. And it's exactly that. It's just like being here for anything, whatever experience life is going to throw you today, and like being like, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to connect deeper to myself from it. I'm not going to run away from it. And it's such a liberating way to do life. I love it.
Liberation. And,
Yeah.
I have a big question, Shule, because I really always like in all my podcast episodes to kind of bring it away from the individual and towards the collective. So, a big question I have for you: how do you think manifestation and abundance are changing and evolving as humanity evolves and raises its consciousness?
I think in the way that we've described in this podcast, I see people recognizing that they're in this consumerism mindset. They're operating from lack, from scarcity, from need when they're participating in the manifestation process. And I literally see that the more people are getting, the more they're realizing that that isn't actually where the healing happens. That's not actually what they're here to do. Like, I have listened to, like, teachers that I was learning from, like my mentors and things like that. And I've literally seen them change and the shifts in what they're saying and their realizations coming on board. So I can really see this for the collective now, like this complete realization of healing, true heart-based consciousness, true, like, raising the energy of the collective, because as light workers, that's what we're here to do, right? And like, we're going to learn this mission. So, it starts with us learning it for ourselves. And I really see lots of light workers finally like recognizing this and being able to hear this. I've also noticed like changes as well. Like, when I first started sharing on this, it was like less people were like receptive to it. And now like more people are like, yes, 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 right? They're not like moving towards the shiny object syndrome, which is like a lot of what manifestation was anymore. They want to know, like, they want this piece. They want true healing. They want true depth. They want like, they want what their soul came here to actually learn, which is everything that we've been talking about in this podcast. And it's been really beautiful to witness.
That gets me so excited. And from my position, from my perch, what I see as well is I feel we are really in a process of expansion right now and growth. And we're really being pushed collectively to expand what we are capable of holding and expanding our capacity so that we can hold more and receive more and give more, right? Our hearts are being pushed to expand right now in these times. And we are each being guided to hold more light, hold more love, and more abundance. And that's not necessarily an easy or comfortable process, though, I will say, as we've shared in this podcast episode. But I feel, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this, as we expand and increase our capacity and embody more light and love, we're really moving into a time of instantaneous manifestation. We're really coming into our full power here. And I think that can mean that giving and receiving from life is instantaneous.
It is like honestly, what is the concept of time? It does not exist. So absolutely, there is definitely an exhilaration happening in this like collective consciousness. We are going through a lot. And I know you and I were like talking a lot about this before we actually pressed to record, right? In terms of like collective consciousness and everything that's happening. And I think like now more than ever, we are faced with our darkness. It's like right in our face. In anything that you're looking at collectively right now that you're not liking, I guarantee that it's like telling you a story of you. It's showing you where you keep yourself in separation, and it's really worth looking into because like that's the healing. It's being asked to let go. It's being asked to be transmuted. That's why it's like so in our faces, and that's your part to play with actually healing collective consciousness. And you play such an important part. That's another thing that I want to say. Like, I think sometimes we can feel like a little bit like helpless, but you play such an important, vital part because like just you shifting and willing to see yourself and like raising that standard is a ripple effect to all of the lives that you touch. Our light workers are doing it. We're doing it.
It's an exciting time to be alive, even though it's difficult and uncomfortable.
It is. And I just find so much excitement in the discomfort because I'm like, I just know the gifts in that, the love that you tap into through seeing these parts of yourself. It's like, it's scary, it's difficult, will be the hardest thing you ever do, but it will be the best thing you ever do for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's one big takeaway for me from our conversation today is I'm excited for the uncomfortable and the discomfort and, all the triggers because that is the doorway to healing and a doorway to the miracle frequency. So,
That makes me excited because that's genuinely what I want to share when I'm like having these conversations with people. It's like just being brave enough to like fully see yourself. And, even when we were having this conversation, you were just like, I'm triggered and I'm activated. And like there were things coming up and you were just like, I want to move towards that. Like that's the energy. That's the frequency. Because like that, as you said, like that's the pathway. That's the pathway that leads to your liberation and you truly like breaking free from yourself. And makes me happy that that message came across. I'm like, yay.
Shule, thank you so much for being here today and sharing so much wisdom with us. I love this conversation so much. It got me so excited. And yeah, I'm just really grateful.
Thank you so much for having me and holding the space. It was really, really like such a heart opening conversation to have.
I have one last big important question for you that I like to ask all of my guests. What is your vision for the future of humanity and the earth?
My vision for the future of humanity is to see light workers leading and just to see more of these concepts not being like identified as like woo woo, but actually like welcomed and explored. And what I really want to see more of like collectively is more people who are bringing up children. Like that's like where my biggest like interests are, and I'm really being mindful of like how we're raising children and emotional regulation being taught in like schools, or maybe having like even more like heart-based consciousness like schools as well. Like it's like that generation of children that I really want to see shifts in and like how people are being raised. And yeah, I know like there's just so much. I'm not even a parent, but there's just so much I consume based on like how to raise children. And because I just think it's so important to know this and to teach this. And like we're teaching ourselves as adults like how to do all these things, and we're teaching those around us like how to emotionally regulate and things like that. But I'd like to see more of that being taught in like school systems. Yeah, that's my vision for humanity, just to see the light workers rising up. And I believe it's happening already.
So there you have it, friends. I encourage you to get curious about all the ways the energy of lack and need and not enoughness is showing up in your life so that you can break free. Are you ready to see the beauty and abundance present all around you? Are you ready to find happiness in this present moment, here and now? The miracle frequency awaits. I'll end today with a quote from Shule. This is the year we choose to be happy just because we get to be. This is the year we revel in the unknown because we trust in the divine unfolding of this beautiful life.